Youorns. Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time for another edition of the YouOrns 10-minute take on Watford 1, Sheffield United 2. And it was a resilient Watford that took the field against this very difficult to play Blades side. And Watford acquitted themselves very well. They performed well, they fought well, and I think that they played a good game of football overall, but it was the clinical aspects of their game that lacked in critical moments for the home side as they fell to defeat at home for the second consecutive time and the third straight overall, and four of the last five matches. So what Watford have now is officially a slump. Every team has one during this time of year. In fact, not exactly always this time of year, but every team goes through a slump during the course of a long season, and Watford are no exception to that. The question becomes, how do Watford react to this? Sheffield United scored early. It's the fifth consecutive game that the Watford defence have given up a goal in the first 15 minutes of a match. And in the 13th minute, Sheffield Wednesday's turn to experience what it feels like to go ahead against Watford with the goal scored, well taken goal scored by Hamer to give the Blades that 1-0 lead. And look, the defence wasn't great in this situation for either goal. And they really got hurt in giving up the initial goal. Watford having to come from behind yet again. They did not take long to equalize this time. It was, roughly, 10 minutes later, if that, 7 minutes later, that Jeremy Ngakia scored his first goal for Watford. I was so happy that he did get his first goal for the club after a few years and after a lot of difficulty with injury. Coming back from another injury this season, he has played really well, I think, since he's returned. And all of that has been rewarded now with the goal he scored in the game to make it 1-1. Now, Watford got into half time at 1-1. Happily, not a replay of the Cardiff game in which they equalized there, but then less than 2 minutes later gave up another go-ahead goal. Wasn't quite like that in this game, but in the second half, it didn't take long for Sheffield United to score. Within the first 10 minutes of the second half, Sheffield United were back in front, undoing all of the work that Watford had done to keep the score at one apiece. And then it was a really well taken shot from Brooks from around 19, 20 yards out that destroyed any hope of Watford fighting to get an equalizer. Although they did fight to get an equalizer, they just didn't get the equalizer in this game. Daniel Bachmann made some big saves in the second half, having put Watford under pressure by himself in the first, almost giving up a costly second goal for United in that first half alone. Luckily, his blushes were spared, but in the second half, he made up for it with some really good saves, some point-blank saves toward the end that kept the score at 2-1 as Watford fought vigorously at the other end to get the equalizer. But that was not to be as the game finished at 2-1. But the game finished at more than 2-1. It finished with a costly injury to Daniel Bachmann, which, as of the time of this recording, has not yet been revealed. Perhaps by the time you see this video, that will have changed greatly. But it looked very serious, something with the ankle, lower leg injury for sure. But as of this moment, that has not yet been issued publicly. Seems like the most serious of injuries has been avoided. Ruptured Achilles tendon, which really would keep you out for the rest of the season, and things of that nature have been avoided. But we still don't know the status of Daniel Bachmann as of the time I'm recording this video, but he was lying prone for 10 minutes. Chris Wilder, the former Watford manager, who of course has been the former Sheffield United manager before becoming the new Sheffield United manager and then becoming the former and then the new Sheffield United manager again, went over to Daniel Bachmann to give him words of consolation while he was on the ground before he got stretchered off after 10 minutes lying prone with the physios and some of the Watford teammates around him to really give him some consolation in what was a really painful and very devastating blow to Watford to lose Daniel Bachmann. No matter how some of us may have criticized him with his footballing and goalkeeping at times, you don't want to see any goalkeeper, any player at all get injured, and certainly not in this fashion. It was really painful to see, and I'm sure for Daniel Batman, it was far worse than what we thought was painful because it was absolutely agonizing to see the man in that kind of pain and discomfort. So I do hope that he has a speedy recovery. So Daniel Batman, if you or someone you know, Daniel, is watching this, I really want to extend to you my very best wishes for a speedy recovery. And you'll be back in no time, I'm sure. And you're a fighter. You are someone who is dedicated to bouncing back, and I know you will. So just keep going. And remember that tough times don't last. Tough people like you do. And so, Daniel, I wish you the very best for a speedy recovery. And Daniel Batman is definitely the big story. The other big story in this match was a handball that was not supposedly seen by the referee. That would be one of the bigger talking points of this match, along with Daniel Backman being injured. There was no reason why that was not given. It was very clearly a handball. The Sheffield United defender extended his arm out. Ball hits his arm. You controlling the ball with your arm. Sissoko is literally about a half yard to a yard behind you. So if the ball is not controlled by your hand, Sissoko is lining up to take a shot at goal from about 7 or 8 yards out. He's going to most likely score there. And so what you did is take a gamble, but with sticking out your arm, the referee or the linesman wouldn't see it or they would ignore it. And the gamble worked because the linesman didn't say anything and the referee waved it off when it was clear to everybody in front of the rookery that that was a blatant handball. You had Musa Sissoko, who was right next to the player, declare it a handball as well. He was screaming at the ref. Referee said, go away. And that chance for Watford went away as well. But this really was, and a lot of Watford fans won't want to hear this, but this really was a case of karma. Remember, just over 8 days ago now, on Boxing Day, Watford had a penalty awarded to them that was not even a penalty in a million years when Quadro Bar was challenged outside the 18-yard box. Everybody saw it, but the linesman thought it would be a good idea to overrule the referee, and he did. And then the penalty was awarded, and it was a Kayembe penalty, and he converted it to give Watford a 1-1 scoreline at the time against Portsmouth, and then Watford went on to win the game 2-1. But these things do even out over the course of a season. In fact, after that game against Portsmouth on the youorns post match, I was really unhappy about the penalty, even though I was happy Watford won. The penalty we should never have had. And I did say that when we play Sheffield United, we are going to have something like this happen to us. And if they give Sheffield United a penalty that they don't deserve, if you think the referee's not going to oblige them, you're going to be disappointed. And look what happened. Almost the same exact thing that I said, except we got robbed of what was a clear penalty. But again, this is what happens. I do believe these things even out. And this was that moment where Watford got something that they didn't deserve in the reverse this time, as opposed to what happened against Portsmouth, and Watford end up losing the match. And this is what happens when you're going badly. When Watford played Portsmouth, they were in the middle of a pretty good run. Now, when Watford play Sheffield United, literally 8 days later, they're in the midst of a bad run. Watford, certainly 4 of their last 5 games being defeats, that's a bad run. And so, yeah, you get the unlucky bounce of the ball against you, and then therefore you get a penalty decision waved off. Now, if there were VAR in the championship, which there is not, you would hope that the VAR people would be half smart enough to see that that was clearly a handball in the box and thus a penalty. But that is all academic now because there is no VAR in the championship. So that's the bottom line. And it's a shame. It's a real shame. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Watford are in a bit of a tailspin now. They're now ninth in the table as of this day. And you really want to try to arrest this slide now because we now have a real question of character that comes up. Yeah, club captain and goalkeeper, number one goalkeeper, is out of the lineup for goodness knows how long. You're going to get Miles Roberts coming to Watford after having his loan abbreviated from Partick Thistle. He's a very well thought of goalkeeper. He has been player of the month twice now this season as a goalkeeper for Partick Thistle up in Scotland. And he's certainly someone who I think will bring a lot of energy and confidence to the goalkeeping at Watford. I won't be surprised if he gets thrown in at the deep end right away, although Jonathan Bond will, I'm sure, be mentoring him and giving him some good advice as well. And Jonathan Bond is going to play most likely the game against Fulham in the Carabao Cup this coming Thursday. But Miles Roberts is going to be someone that Watford can really use. I think Watford need to go into the market to get some other key players. Certainly, we're going to be talking about getting a striker in here, no doubt, and a midfielder in here as well. We don't know about TDB. He's not yet begun training with Watford as of this video, but hopefully he'll be able to begin training in the next few weeks. I hope that would be really good. And so maybe what, February TDB? Who knows? I don't know. I have no idea what is going to happen. Rather, with TDB, I have no idea about that. But we'll see. Ogbonna had an hour in defense. I thought he was pretty good. I liked Sierralta in defense as well. And Pollock, that back three, I thought was really good to the extent that they could be in a game like this. Watford, I think what pleased me about this performance was not only the tenacity and the never stay die attitude on this, what was Graham Taylor match day, but also the belief and the spirit about this team. It was an end-to-end football match for the most part, and Watford gave as good as they got. They played well. They were very spirited. They moved the ball quickly. They ran into the channels really well. Had good link-up play for the most part. And Loser was terrific in midfield. His absence from the game previous certainly was felt, but today or yesterday when he did come back, he looked like made an impactful difference, a huge difference to that midfield. Imran Loser becoming a very important player this season for us, where he, of course, was on the outs last season with Val Ishmael and had some disciplinary problems there. But Loser has come back full of purpose, reborn, a renaissance of sorts for Imran Loser, and he really did do a really good job yesterday, marshalling the midfield and doing a decent job with it. But Sheffield United have a lot of talent. Obviously, they're going to be one of the top two teams, I think. They're going to be very close to that. I think they will be in the automatics. It's probably going to be Sheffield United and Burnley going up. And I think that Leeds, I don't trust in a big spot winning the title. I mean, they'll probably be the third team that goes up anyway, but I don't think they're going to go up as champions. So that's what I think about that. Watford now, for the first time, lose to a team above them at the Vic this season. Look, Watford played well, I think, even though you're looking at 4 out of 5 and you're looking at a big character build that Watford need to do with these lads. They have to stay together. They have to stay focused. They have to take one game at a time now and really dig into the formula that they used in this game, albeit against a very high quality opponent, and keep it going. If you can get something in the game against Fulham, which is a Carabao Cup game, that would be something to start with. Just focus on playing football and focus on expressing yourself out there. Watford did a good job of that against the Blades at the Vic, but they fell short. Sheffield United are a very strong side. Obviously, they're well marshaled, they're well drilled in their defensive capabilities, and they're very clinical. And they should have had at least a couple more goals in this game. But if it wasn't for Daniel Backman, that would have been the case. So, look, 4 out of 5 is obviously a concern. 3 consecutive losses. Watford have not done that until now this season, or any time under Tom Cleverley until now. And then four of the last 5 in defeat. It's a tricky situation for Watford. Every team goes through this during the course of a season, but Watford now are going to have to marshal character and leadership in order to get themselves out of this rut, because you can fall down the table in the championship very, very quickly indeed with a losing streak. And it's amazing how you can arrest a slide with 2 or 3 victories in a row. You can find yourself right back in the thick of things when it comes to the playoffs, with a 2 or even 3 game winning streak. So you really have to keep that in mind, that the pendulum at this point of a season can swing either way. It can go this way where you start to lose more games, or it can go this way when you start to win, I should say, more games. 3 on the spin, 2 on the spin can really make a difference. 6 points, and you're right back in the mix in the playoffs. If you lose your next game or your next 2, you can easily find yourself in the bottom 8, which is where a lot of Watford fans before the start of this season had Watford finishing or skirmishing throughout the season. This is make or break time, really, and it's a pivotal part of Watford's season. Will character abound, or will the slide continue? That's the question I leave you with right now. This has been the YouOrns 10-minute take.